Coming up on the Amazing Art Show, Fishy Business. Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Amazing Art Show. I am your host, Angie Beam, and we are doing some fishy business today. We are going to be doing some really awesome collage work today. And our artist that kind of inspired our project today is Henry Matisse. And I think I found like the smallest little picture that I possibly could of Henry Matisse, his goldfish picture, that kind of inspired me. And then I also just kind of ran across another little picture. This is one that a student did. And I just thought those are so cute. So I decided that that's what I wanted to do. That's kind of inspiring our project today. So let's go over what we're going to need. If you happen to have mom, dad, aunt, grandma, somebody that does scrapbooking, they've got all of these cool books, and these books have like all these different kinds of patterns in them. And so if you could get your hands on some of those, that's great, because then you'll have a wide variety. If not, see what you can find around your house that has patterns on it. It could be anything from like grocery sacks, it could be you know, sacks that you got, you know, your new pair of jeans in, anything like that that has pattern on it that you could use. And so you want to get a couple of different patterns to work with. So one of the sheets that you need is going to need to be like a full sheet. So this is, I don't even know, like 12 by 12 probably. And then the next thing that you'll need is you'll need one of those that's kind of half of that. That'll be kind of down towards the bottom. And then you'll need two more pieces. They don't have to be 12 by 12, but they need to be fairly big. And then also, if you can find just some plain white and something that maybe has some kind of a pattern that you can use to cut out, that would be great too. And you are going to need, and it's very hard for me to pick up today for some strange reason, a googly eye. Googly eye. And scissors. You would be good to get some really big black Sharpies. The thicker ones work the best for this project. And then glue sticks, scissors, and I think that's it. So let's get started. All right, so I want you to take your papers, your pattern papers, and you're basically going to be dividing your paper in half. So far I've got this one, I've got like a dot pattern here and a kind of a lighter dot pattern here. But I also really like this one too. So I'm thinking I may kind of work on two things at once today. Usually when you tear these out of the book, it's got a little piece up here on the top that you do not want to keep. So you're going to tear that off. And I'm going to have this be the top portion, and I'm going to have this one be the bottom portion on this particular one. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that on there. I think I'm going to try my glue stick. Last time I did not have the best luck with my glue stick, but hopefully today I will have a little bit better luck. If I keep my fingers crossed. Make sure you get everything lined up down at the bottom and on your edges. And as you can see, this, since we are working with all these patterns, this is a pretty pattern intense project that we're working on today. All right, and then the next thing that you're going to be working on is going to be your fishbowl. And I'm going to show you kind of two different ways that you can do your fishbowl. The first way is I had like a little pad of paper, like a writing tablet that, I don't know, there's just something about writing tablets that I really like. And so I thought I wanted to kind of make that part of my design. So one of my fish bowls is on that lined paper. But my other one that I'm going to do, I'm actually going to do on this sheet of paper. And I'm going to use my Sharpie. And you're going to want, I'm going to make this other one, I'm going to make it a little bit of a different shape. But you want an opening, and then you want kind of your bowl shape. And normally when we cut something out, I have you cut exactly on the line, but today we are going off the grid and we're doing it a little bit different because This is supposed to be like very whimsical and fun and kind of silly. So we're not making it realistic. It's very kind of cartoony and fun. And so we're not going to cut exactly on the lines. I know that is just going to blow your mind because I'm always saying I cut on the lines. But today you don't. All right, so I'm going to start out with my kind of a really narrow kind of football shape up here at the top. That will be the opening for my bowl. And I'm going to actually make this one be a little more round than the other one. And you really want to make this line thick. So I've already drawn it out once, obviously, and now I'm going to go back with my marker. And we have been talking in art about thick and thin lines, and my kids are having a very hard time when I tell them to make the line really, really thick. I don't understand why they're not getting that, but they're having a hard time with it. So when I say make the line really big and thick, that means you're going to go over it. It's going to be wider and thicker than the first original line that you made. So you can just basically go right beside where you were drawing it originally, go right beside it, and that just, and then fill in any little empty spots that you might have left there, and you're making the line thicker. And since we are doing these kind of whimsical and fun, if your line happens to be a little bit wavy or wiggly, it's really not that big of a deal today. So this is the day to do it. So I'm just going to come and go down along the edge here. The plain piece of paper that I mentioned to you earlier, you're actually going to use that to make the opening right up here for your jar or your bowl. So you can do that a couple different ways. I got my piece of paper light enough to where I can actually kind of see through it. So I'm just going to use my Sharpie, and I'm just going to go back over. That's my bad Sharpie. I'm going to go back over that. I say I can see it. Now I'm having a hard time with it. We'll see how well I do here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead. I don't want it to bleed through, so I'm going to drop this over here, and I'm going to outline making this thick again. All right, now on this one, cut on the line. So I'm going to cut this out, and we will keep our fingers crossed that it all lines up okay. And you know, I mean, if you get a little off the line and there's a little white left showing, we're making these kind of silly and fun, so don't worry about it. All right, and hopefully this is going to fit on my bowl right in here. Not too shabby, people. All right, I am going to cut out my bowl shape. I saw a little place that I messed up there. And remember I said that we were not cutting this out exactly, so I want you to come out like ½ an inch or so away from the line. Maybe even less than that. And cut out your bowl shape. And this will be our next piece that we're going to glue on. This project, like when I got it all put together, it just like makes me happy. I love this project. It's like I want to do a whole wall of these at my house. All right, so I've got that. And I'll lay this on here so you can kind of see how that's going to look. So we're looking like that so far. This piece is going to fit right down inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that. So I'm just flipping it over, give it a little bit of glue. And then we'll put that in place. And you might want to kind of play with where your placement that you would like for it to be. It could be more to one side. Let's do that. I'm going to offset mine and not put it in the center. My mom would not approve of that. My mom is it has to be lined up in the center. But I'm usually not, so. And make sure you want to get your edges glued down. That's another thing we have trouble with in class. You got to get those edges glued down. That's your good craftsmanship. If you don't get the edges glued down, it looks like you were lazy. We don't want that. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and glue this little piece on here. And then the next piece we're going to be working on is going to be the water inside the bowl. And just so you know, my piece that I'm putting on right here, it is not perfect. So don't stress if yours isn't either. Okay, all right, so that's what we got so far. Lid, there we go. All right, now I'm going to be using this color paper, and this is going to become the water in my bowl. Now this is kind of the trickiest part because you have to make sure that the shape fits inside of your bowl, and there's really no rhyme or reason to it. I can't see through this paper, so I'm really just guessing. So usually what I will do is kind of like, I try to kind of lay it down, and sometimes I'll like bend it to make some little marks just to kind of remind myself kind of where my edges are. And that helps me as I'm cutting just to kind of know. So I'm just bending it and kind of pushing it up against my finger, and it just kind of creates some little lines. So I kind of know until I turn my paper accidentally, and then that's going to mess it up a little bit. All right, so I'm kind of going with that shape. So if you can happen to see that, you can kind of see it a little bit. So I'm just going to come in here, and I'm just going to kind of cut along my folds of my finger. And I'm actually going to go across there. Okay, now for the test. Hey, that's pretty awesome. All right, so it fits in there pretty well. I don't want it to come up quite that high, so I'm actually going to trim this part down a little bit so that it's not quite so full. Kind of like so. All right, now before I go any further with that, I want to talk about your background. And I talked to you about seeing if you could find some pieces, you know, that you could cut out, and those work great. I also found some little pieces that were like little flowers from something else. I don't even know what it was. And I found some like newsprint, and I was like, you know, I really like that. And so you can find different things all over the place, and I actually think I may just use these. So I'm going to get my glue stick. I really like using newsprint a lot, so you'll see me do that a lot. And then I'm just going to lay that on there. I'm going to give it a little spin so that it gets on my edges, and if it doesn't get on my edges, I'm going to lift it up, get a little more glue under there. And I'm starting just with kind of the top part, the top layer, I guess. I'm going to put it on. I'm going to twist it around. And this one is actually going off the end of my paper, and I'm doing that on purpose. That gives your artwork some interest. All right. And we always like to work with even numbers. No, we want odd numbers. So I'm going, I need one more. So let me see here. I think I'm going to put it right down in here. All right, and then I could take these if I wanted to. Let me see what these look like. These have a lighter pink. It doesn't quite match my pattern, but I also have, I could grab a couple of these. And remember how we talked about, you know, normally I make you cut it out exactly. You don't have to do that here. So even on the flowers, you're just going to cut around the circumference of it. So I'm going to use these right in there. Oh, I like that a lot. And let's see what else. This one may be a little big, but I can always trim it. So let's look. Yep, that's a little big. So I'm just going to cut some of the petals down. It's okay. Nobody's ever going to know that it once was bigger. It's my secret and yours too now. So that one can kind of go in there. So you're kind of getting the idea. And so I'm going to go ahead and glue those down. This one that I glued on the top, I actually am going to, where'd that other one go? I'm going to cut that part off so that I end up, here we go. Looks pretty good. And I think I'm just going to use this one in here. And I think I have another one or two of those. All right, now let's go back to my water shape. I'm going to go ahead and glue that down as well. And then the next thing that we're going to be making is going to be our fish. And he is just going to, he or she is just going to be floating around in there. All right, so your fish, you want to pick a color for your fish that is going to show up well. And so I'm going to look in here and see. I was kind of thinking that would be nice because it kind of looks like scales on a fish. It goes with my color scheme pretty well. That would also look pretty good, but it's close to the color of my water. That's not good. That's not too bad, but it's awfully light. I could go with something like that. That's kind of cool looking. Too bad I don't have that. This one would be cool. I think I'm going with my polka dots. My first thought. So I'm just going to pop this little sheet out. And then for your fish, oh, there was already one there. All right, so for your fish, you're going to take it. You will not need the whole thing. And you're going to fold it over on one side. And you're just basically going to cut out half of a fish. So I usually start with the body. So it's kind of going to look like half of an oval. And then depending on what you want your fish to look like, what you want the shape of your fish to be, you could make it have a really super fancy tail, or you could make it more of a simple tail. And then once you open it, check it out and see if it's something you like. If you don't, you can always, you know, alter it. So I don't really like how that tail looks. So I'm actually going to trim this here. I'm going to make this come more in, right in here. See how that looks. All right. Okay, so now my fish is ready. And the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab your plain white sheet of paper, wherever mine went. And you're going to be doing a circle. While I look for my paper, why don't you guys go to today's quote? Irish writer and poet Oscar Wilde said, "No great artist ever sees things as they really are. If he did, he would cease to be an artist." All right, so I've got my white paper, and so now what I want you to do is, depending on how big your googly eye is, you can, it actually works pretty well if you want to use like a regular Elmer's glue and go ahead and glue your eye down onto a white sheet of paper, because that way it holds tight and you can cut a circle around it. So you just want to get a nice size circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. Going around here. All right, there we go. Okay, so now you're going to take that, and that gets glued onto your fish. And I did my eye like exaggerated, like really, really big. So that goes there. Now, typically we would add all kinds of details on your fish, but remember how we said this is kind of cartoony and it's non-realistic. So you could keep your fish like that if you want, or you could go, you know, and add some extra things to it. That would be really awesome looking as well. And then something else that I thought of is you could also, you know, you could add another little fish. Now, I do not have a googly eye that is that little, but we can definitely make it work. So I think I'm going to put this little guy on here. And then I just got a little white piece of paper that I cut out. And can glue that on there. Hey, why isn't he sticking? And then you can just use your black Sharpie marker to just put a little dot in there. I think they make some small googly eyes, but he was kind of a last minute thought. All right, and then my last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my biggest fish and I'm going to glue it on there. I'm going to do them a little closer together, like that. And there we have our finished piece, our fishy business for today. So I hope that you had as much fun making this as I did. I'm going to make more of these. I hope you do too. Now go out and make some amazing art.